Hour, and we're going to get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Josh, and I am part of the Appspace marketing team. So in today's webinar, we're going to be talking about Appspace, the heart of today's smart buildings. So Appspace is at the forefront of enabling smart building integration and IoT adoption in the workplace. In this session, we delve into the platform's capabilities and compatibility with various IoT devices and systems. We'll showcase how Appspace can act as a centralized hub, integrating data from diverse sources and transforming it into actionable insights. From intelligent environmental controls to occupancy analytics, we'll explore how Appspace optimizes building operations and elevates the workplace experience. And we're very lucky to have Carolyn today to explain everything to us. So just before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping rules. So everyone has been muted, so there's no background noise. No barking dogs or anything. We've also turned off your cameras just to save on the bandwidth so you can clearly see Carolyn's slides. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar. So the email that you registered for this email, we will be sending you an email couple of days after the webinar, so you'll get the recording and some more links to some other resources. So keep an eye out for that email, and please don't hesitate to submit any questions you have. We'd love to hear from you, and you can do that by popping them into the chat box in the GoToWebinar panel on your left-hand side. There will be time for a bit of quick Q&A at the end of this webinar. And that's it for the housekeeping. So now I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn for today's presentation. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh, and thanks everyone for attending. I'm very excited to be here to talk about this really exciting new development that we're seeing in the workplace, and that Appspace is really right there working with customers. So what we're going to do today, what we're going to cover is we're going to talk about different use cases, specific actual use cases, how Appspace customers are using IoT in their smart buildings. We're going to spend most of our time looking at the workflows, right? The multi-step processes that create what's most important here, which is the frictionless end user experience. And then we will, as we go through it and we work through those workflows, talk about specific IoT devices and solutions that customers have integrated into their Appspace instance. But as we get going, just a little bit about me. I am the Senior Vice President of Service Delivery for Appspace. I have been for, yes, well over 20 years at this point, leading organizations through digital transformation, whether it is in the news and publishing industry or in corporate content, and now to really overall employee workplace. And my goal every day and with the teams that I work with is to help customers get the most out of your investments by leveraging everything the Appspace platform has to offer. And that's particularly relevant when it comes to IoT, because these are investments in smart buildings that companies are making, that customers are making. And what I want to do is help you get the most out of even those other investments you're making by utilizing the Appspace platform. All right, so there are lots of IoT devices, lots of services we offer, more than I could possibly cover in this webinar. But we're going to focus today on 4 specific areas. We're going to talk about access management and a workflow that a customer has built out. We've worked with a customer to build out. We're going to talk about air quality, occupancy sensors, and then power. So those are the 4 we're going to focus on today. We are doing lots of other integrations, but these are ones that are the most popular at this point. So before we dive into the workflows, I found this quote on a podcast I follow. Mike Brzula, who's a managing director of intelligent and digital workplaces at Accenture, has a regular podcast, And this really resonated with me. So the thing about creating a smart workplace is not about having a system or a tool. A smart workplace is created by you for your people to give the experience you want. So it's not about necessarily what the system is or what this type of sensor is. It's about what the end experience is. And that's what we're going to focus on in these workflows. So we're going to start with access management. And if you think about access management, this is access into buildings or into spaces. This is security. And there's a lot of opportunity with technology there. And the case that we're going to talk about is we had a customer who they have visitors and employees, well, mostly visitors in this case, go through turnstiles to access the building. The Appspace visitor management, we create QR codes for visitors when we send them invitations, but the QR codes that we create didn't work with their particular security system. So it was that was the challenge they had. The other challenge they're facing was they'd have visitors who you send them an invite and with a QR code, and whether they can use it to get through the turnstile or not, they don't have it or they forget to bring it. So let's look at the workflow. So in this case, using Appspace Visitor Management, the host invites the visitor to the building, or if it's a number of visitors coming at once, you can bulk upload the visitor list into the Appspace Visitor Management. So the host takes care of that. Appspace then sends the visitor information to the security system, which in this case is Schneider Electric, right? And this is the integration. So the security system generates a QR code that it can read and sends it back to Appspace. Appspace then takes that new QR code and sends it with all the visit details to the visitor. So then when the day arrives that the visitor is coming to the office, coming to the building, they're prepared to get in. So let's look at what happens when they arrive. So the visitor arrives at the building. Hi, very friendly, they arrive. Now, if they have remembered, they have in their email, they have their QR code, they use the easy breezy on the mobile phone, use the QR code to enter the security turnstile. It's great, frictionless experience for them. If they're one of those people who forgot their QR code, in this case for this customer, what we did was we built a custom Appspace card that has the visitor list of the day that has the associated QR code that's been generated from the integration with the security system. So if they forget the QR code, they go up to concierge. Concierge can say, okay, yes, Josh has permission to be here today, print the QR code for them. They then use the QR code to go through the turnstile. What happens then is another integration with the integration with Schneider Electric, the security system notifies Appspace that the guest has arrived, right? So they've come through, the guest has arrived. What Appspace Visitor Management does as part of just the regular functionality is then checks the visitor in and sends a notification to the host. So the host then can go down and can either communicate if they're texting on mobile, can call, or can go down and meet the guest, the visitor, because they know they've arrived. Now, at the end of the day, the way it's set up, the way this customer particularly wanted it set up, is that the security system disables the QR code so that the visitor cannot come back in at the end of the day. However, one of the things that it does allow for is the visitor to come and go throughout the day. So this is a system that this particular customer has been very happy with. It allows the flexibility, visitor to come and go, but maintains security in terms of knowing who's there, and at the end of the day, cuts off that access. So that's one of the exciting ones we've done for visitor management and access systems, the integration there. Want to shift now to environmental data. So one of the things that we're also seeing a lot of is interest in the employee experience around the environment, as we would expect, right? And this includes everything from lighting to noise to temperature and to air quality. And in this case, we're going to focus on air quality, but we are building integrations and have built some integrations with the others as well, because any environmental sensor, it works the same way in terms of the integration with Appspace. So in this case, we're working with a customer who's opening a new headquarters in London, and they are determined that they're going to create the healthiest building in the world. So what they wanted to do was they're gathering all this, they have all this data, this indoor air quality data and environmental data, and they wanted to expose that to their employees and promote safe behavior. So in this case, they have sensors that read the indoor air quality and send that data to Metricus. Now, Metricus is, think of it as a middleware that aggregates the data from the existing building systems, right? And so Appspace in this case integrates not with the sensors, but with Metricus, which is gathering all the data and providing analytics. Through the integration, Metricus sends the data to Appspace to display the air quality on the employee app, so this mobile app or desktop app, on kiosks and on room booking panels. So you see here the image at the top is what it would look like on the mobile app, right, or on the employee app on the mobile. It also shows on desktop. And then the lower one is the room booking panel that is outside the room. And you see in this case, it is showing that the air quality is good. Great, no problem. So now what happens, really where the power of this is in this case for this customer, is what if the air quality isn't good? So what if those sensors detect unhealthy levels of CO2 because there have been too many people in a small space for too long, no open windows? What happens is Metricus alerts Appspace that, hey, the CO2 levels are above the threshold. And if you think about it, it could be, in this case, we're talking about air quality, it could be anything that is being sensed. If it reaches or exceeds a particular threshold, it triggers an action. So in this case, Appspace sends the notifications to digital signage in the room, if it's a meeting room, to say, hey, this airspace, whatever the message you might want it to be, is no longer safe. We can help you find another room. Importantly, though, Appspace marks this room as unavailable. So in the reservation system, no one can use this room, no one can access it until Metricus, the sensors tell Metricus, and Metricus tells Appspace that the levels are back to a safe range and normal range. And one of the things we can also do is if someone's coming up to this room and says, oh, I was hoping to use this room, but now it's unavailable for whatever reason, we can suggest another room, right, that has similar occupancy, similar configuration, similar amenities. We can also, if someone has a reservation and the room becomes unavailable for some reason, we can let them know ahead of time, notify them, hey, your room is no longer available. Maybe you want to try this room instead. So a lot of power in creating a frictionless experience. I keep coming back to that for the employee, right? Using these integrations with Appspace and with the IoT to the employee, it keeps them safe and they don't even know all this system is going on in the background. All right, yeah, so I was saying Appspace, we can also suggest alternative rooms. So we're going to go now and talk a little bit about availability and occupancy. And I can say in all the conversations that we have with customers, this is what comes up most frequently, that, excuse me, shut off the alert for the phone, that occupancy sensors and attendance sensors are really for many customers kind of their first entry into IoT and smart buildings, wanting to know how the space is being used, who and how many reservations there are, how to be able to know when there are enough people in the room, so what the occupancy is of any room, how it's being used. So in this case, we have a customer who wanted to display space availability on Appspace wayfinding kiosks, right? But their challenge was they used JCI OpenBlue sensors to track usage, but they weren't using it anywhere to display occupancy. And so the workflow that we worked with this customer to create, which made sense for them, goes like this. The employee arrives at the desk. In this case, there's a JCI sensor installed under the desk to detect occupancy. So Carolyn comes, she sits at the desk. The sensor says, aha, there is someone here. Now, that goes to OpenBlue, which registers the status of the sensor associated with the desk, tracks the analytics so the desk is used, so the customer knows that this desk is being utilized. But here's where we built the integration. So what Appspace does is we pull the sensor status from OpenBlue and we make an anonymous reservation in the background. Then on the customer's wayfinding kiosk, it displays updated availability information. So it shows that this space is no longer available. So as an employee, I don't even know what's happened, right? I have no idea that I have been, the space has been reserved and no one else can use it. So again, a frictionless experience for them, and the employee doesn't have to take any additional action, but the customer is able to efficiently utilize their space, and employees are able to find space that they can sit at and use pretty quickly and easily. Now, another example of something we've done with customers with occupancy sensors is addressing a common problem that I'd be surprised if you all haven't seen it. We're seeing it all over the place. Is more efficient use of conference rooms, right? There are some conference rooms that sit empty. There are some that are overused, and a common problem is you have employees that will reserve conference rooms and then don't show up. They don't cancel them. So what happens is you have this very valuable real estate that sits empty. So we built an integration and a workflow with this particular customer where, okay, it addresses that issue. So the employee reserves a meeting room. In this case, they use XY sense sensors to detect the presence, right? They detect that whether there are people in that room or not. So when the reservation is scheduled to start, Appspace looks for data directly from the sensor at this point, because that's what the integration with, and looks for data to confirm that, yep, someone is in the room. Now, there was a lot of discussion with this particular customer about this workflow. It's like, do you want it to happen exactly at the top of the hour? What if a meeting earlier runs long? Or do you want it to happen at 5 minutes after? So we can work out those nuances with different customers based on what makes sense for how their employees use the space. In this case, the customer was not worried about meetings running long. So right when the reservations start, looks for data to confirm occupancy. If the sensor shows that the room is occupied, that someone is in there, the reservation proceeds as normal. Again, nothing happens. No one knows the better. Employee doesn't know the better. It's all quiet in the background. But if after 10 minutes there's no occupancy detected, Appspace sends a courtesy email to the meeting organizer to remind them, hey, you have this space reserved. Do you need to cancel it? Or if not, we encourage you to move in that direction, please. But if after 15 minutes there's still no occupancy, the power of this is Appspace cancels the reservation and the room goes back into the system as available. So if I'm making a reservation from the employee app at my desk or on my phone or at the kiosk, then this space shows up as able to be utilized. So it's not sitting there empty. So now we're going to move on to one of the, I think, most exciting and kind of cutting edge integrations that we've done with power management, because it leverages a lot of it leverages both occupancy and the other area of power conservation and space utilization efficiency. So this is the customer that is also doing the integration with Schneider Electric, where the visitor managed one we talked about first, where the visitor gets the QR code that works with their the turnstile. Well, so what they wanted to do for employees is they wanted to conserve energy, but also track occupancy data. And, but create a frictionless experience for the employee. Because if I am monitoring power to turn it on or off for the employee, I don't want the employee to have to deal with that, right? I don't want the employee to worry about whether there's going to be power to a desk or not. I want it to be, again, easy and have the employee have no issues, because we want them to come into the office. So in this case, an employee arrives at the building, they use their badge to go through the turnstile, right? If they have a reservation, they go to the desk where they have the reservation, and they'll see on their CMS Electrocom power device, which sits on the desk, if you think of it as a switch, they'll see an LED light that is orange that shows there's reservation pending. So, right? And then what they do is, in this case, the company wanted to use an RFID badge. So the employee scans their RFID badge, their badge rather, excuse me, at the RFID reader at the desk, which signals Appspace that Carolyn, if she's arrived, has scanned her badge, is here, you should check her in now. So she's checked into her reservation. The act of checking in then triggers power to the desk. So there is no power to that desk until I've scanned my badge. So, but same thing that we did for this other customer with the meeting rooms to let's not tie up spaces that aren't actually being used. If after 10 minutes no one checks in, Appspace sends a courtesy email to the employee, and then no one checks in after 15 minutes, the light changes back to green to signify that space is available and that reservation is canceled. So again, efficient usage that the employee doesn't need. They can either walk up and scan it, or the desk does not remain tied up. Okay, so what if I don't have a reservation? What if I didn't think to make one? I didn't know I was going to be coming in. I forgot. So I arrive at the office without a reservation. One of my options is to go to the kiosk, to go to a wayfinding kiosk and find an available desk. Find something that shows up as green. In this case, we're highlighting that I'm the employee. I'm saying, okay, this is the desk I'm interested in, this blue one. I can scan the QR code on the kiosk screen, take a map with me that shows me the pathway to get to that desk. So I go to the desk that I think I want to use. I haven't reserved it. I just have located it, right? I see the available green LED light and I scan my badge. Now, I don't have a reservation, so it can't check me in without knowing who I am. In this case, we looked at the earlier one where with the sensor under the desk where the customer didn't care who the employee was, they weren't authenticating it. In this case, they want to know who the employee is. So we created a second integration with our HRIS system, which identifies who the employee is, identifies it's Carolyn, creates a reservation under my name, and then checks me into the reservation. And then again, when I'm checked in, it turns the power on to the desk. So that's really one of the exciting, for me, kind of one of the more exciting ones, because it's multiple integrations. It shows the power of all we can do in working with these smart buildings and the different technology out there. So again, our goal is to take you through some of the workflows to show you the exciting work that's happening out amongst Appspace customers and with the tools that they have already in their building, that they're adding to their building, and with Appspace really to assist them, to help them get the most out of their other tools to build the employee experience that they want. So what's next? If you're interested in learning more about IoT integrations or how Appspace can help you with your smart building, contact our sales team. I think Josh mentioned that you'll receive an email containing the recording and contact information if you do want to contact a member of our dedicated sales team. But I would say most importantly, as you go down this journey about smart workplace, remember the quote we saw at the beginning where, it's a smart workplace is created by you for your people to create the experience you want. And that's why the workflows are so important. It's not just about having occupancy data. It's about how you're going to use it to drive the employee experience and behavior that you want. So really the question to leave you with is, what is the experience you want for your employees? Because that will guide you with how you utilize all these tools in a smart building. So thank you very much. Questions?
Okay,
Josh,
question
are we
time.
getting questions?
Yeah, thanks, Carolyn, for your presentation. That was great, full of lots of good information there. We did get a couple of questions that did come in. So yeah, please keep submitting your questions. And if we don't have time to answer them all today, we will get back to you via email. So let's kick off with the first question. So Carolyn, you mentioned Pacific sensors and IoT products. Do we have to use those sensors to integrate with Appspace?
Absolutely not. That was just, those are some of the ones that we have worked with, and we're certainly seeing some that are coming in the market that you'll hear about more often than others, but there are so many different sensors and IoT tools out there that we are not partial to a particular brand, and just as we are with other parts of our platform, we are agnostic for devices.
Great, perfect. The next question we have, are any of these integrations out of the box, or do we need to have them custom built?
So they are not, a lot of the functionality sought is out of the box, and we are working to make more of these integrations out of the box. At the moment, they do require custom engagements for either our team to build or your team can build them. We do have open APIs, and so we're happy to help you to build them for you, or you can have your development team build them, but they do not come out of the box in the sense when you open Appspace, these integrations are built in, though we're increasingly adding the tools within the product to move in that direction.
Okay. We have another question asking about, have any customers used space reservation with parking and integrated with the parking space ability sensors?
Oh, so interesting. No, we've done a lot of, we see a lot of customers using Appspace space reservation for parking, right? So people can reserve parking spaces, or they can reserve type of parking spaces, for instance, with electric vehicle. We have not yet done an integration with the sensors. You know, I think about like in parking garages that have either red or green. I look down, that's how I find what parking space I want. We haven't done those, but allow me to say it's just another sensor from where we sit. So it's a different use case, but it is the same kind of functionality. So we haven't done it, but could easily do it.
Okay, and then we just have time for one last question. You integrate with smart lockers?
We have done a prototype integration with a couple different smart lockers and are building out another one right now. So yep, we have done some integrations with smart lockers, have seen some pretty standard workflows that customers want to use with those. So simply put, the answer is yes.
Okay, great. That's all the time we have today for questions, but we will get back to those ones via email that we didn't have a chance to answer. Okay, if you could go to the last slide, Carolyn. Okay, time to wrap up. So thanks again to Carolyn. Thanks to everyone for joining today. I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar. And as mentioned, you'll be receiving an email very shortly with the webinar recording and some of those contact details to our sales team. And I wish everyone a great and lovely day. Thanks again and goodbye from the Appspace team.
Thank you.